Have I started?
Mm-hmm. Is it every day I should start with the hey y'all?
So what else? How
You saw me turn it on and come and sit down. So what does that mean?
We're going live in 3, 2, 1, action.
Hey y'all.
It's Mish.
It's Queen.
And welcome to
The Raw. Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
So today we are coming from the perspective of the grown and wise, giving advice to our 16-year-old selves.
Yes. Because when I was 16, I could have used it.
Honestly, I could have used it a couple months ago, but it's just advice.
Yeah.
But 16 sounded, better.
It was cute.
Very cute.
Mm-hmm. So each of us are going to pick 2 pieces of advice that we would have given to our 16-year-old self if we were to have a chat with ourselves. And hopefully the advice is helpful to you guys. Being there and then being where we're at now, things that we've learned. So
Yeah, and honestly, I think our advice is very, for me, it's continuous. And so it's like, this is advice I would have given to my 16-year-old self because it's advice that, if applied now, helps for a better quality of life. So
true.
It's advice at any point in my life I want to, revisit and reconsider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I'll start my first one.
Okay.
So if I could chit-chat with 16-year-old me, I think the first thing that I would tell myself is to lead with faith. So I think a lot of the times when doing things or just doing life in general, I am very faith-based, believe heavily in God, Lord, Jesus, the Bible, consider myself a very active Christian, but I think a lot of times where I fall short in my faith is that I believe I have extreme faith as the last resort, as opposed to going into situations leading and going in with faith from the forefront. And so I think a lot of times you're thinking back to a 16-year-old self, or just high school in general, applying to college and things like that, would be kind of the sense where I would get into these situations and just be on autopilot, and then when I'm looking for an answer or finally writing the application, then I would bring faith in, as opposed to starting everything that I do with a faith-filled mentality. I think that would save me a lot of would have saved me a lot of time and stressing and just believing that from the jump God's will prevail regardless. And I think having that kind of faith at the forefront of situations would have eased a lot of the worries and stress and questioning and contemplating. Yeah,
that's a good one. And I think that growing up in a Christian household, we know that God's will prevail, but it's actively living that.
And believing that.
It's a good one. Okay, I think that my first piece of advice that I would give to my younger self is to explore my talents and invest in myself. I think that a lot of times we look to our future and we think that there's a certain way that we should be and a certain path that we should take. And when I was younger, I was very artistic, and so I'd love to draw. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and so my parents bought me a sewing machine when I was 12, and I never used it. I was in my church choir, and there was just a lot of different talents that I feel I had / still have, that I never took the time to explore or really even invest in myself in. And it's kind of one of those things where when you take the time to develop these gifts, you never know how far they can take you, right? And so it's you see stories of a 16-year-old person or 23-year-old fashion designer, and it's what if I had started learning to sew and sewing when I was 16 years old?
Rich right now. Look at
do you see? Do you get, right? And so it's one of those things where it's despite what the world might tell you, and despite what people say is going to be the money maker, be the doctor, be this, God has granted us each separate gifts and talents, right? And so it's like, use them and use them to your advantage, explore them, get to know what they are, build upon them, and like grow from them. And I think that's one of the things that I definitely wish that if I could go back, I would do differently.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so solid, and it kind of goes like kind of hand in hand with what will be like my second piece of advice. And I honestly recently rediscovered this thing, but I would tell myself to like be whole, be who I am completely. I think I've always struggled with like who I was, because in a lot of spaces it was deemed like too much. And so like, I don't know, like there's going to college, I think really allowed me to like walk into myself. Like I started like hosting events, like I just started doing so much where I was just like being who I was. And I think a lot of times like I didn't want to be or like be deemed or like, oh, you know, she's being too much. Like because I am extremely outgoing, I am very loud, I will joke to my very last day. And I didn't want to be like, I shied away from being that person, like the comedian or whatever, because I never like didn't like being labeled as like doing too much. And I think that robbed me of like me working on these talents, these gifts, these skill sets, these who I naturally am, because I didn't want to present myself to the world, you know, as being too much. And so out of fear of being like judged, I like would hold back a lot. And I think that robbed me of a lot of life, just trying to be like mellow and average so that I'm not like too much. So yeah, I would definitely tell myself like, tell the jokes, be loud, like just be who you are. And then yeah.
I lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, okay. So my second piece of advice, and it's very similar to yours, but I thought long and hard about if I was to give myself two pieces of advice, what they would be. And I think that my second piece of advice would be allow yourself time to become who you are. Yeah, I think that like the person who we're constantly growing and evolving and changing. And I think that who we were in the past / the events that have happened to us do not define our character and who we are today. And so we should allow ourselves that time and just be gracious with ourselves, be forgiving with ourselves as to who we are as we're continuously growing, as we're continuously becoming more self-aware of ourselves and like our likes and dislikes and all those other things. I think that also as we're growing, people try to self-impose like who they see us to be. And I think that for me, I almost like gravitated towards it and tried to force that as to who I was. And so it's like, oh, like Aquia the athlete, or like Aquia, you're such a like quiet person. Oh, Aquia, you're such a like leader, you're this, you're that. And it was just like so many different people who interacted with me trying to tell me like who I was. And in that, it's like you lose a sense of self when trying to adapt with what everyone else believes you are, or who everyone else believes you are. And so I think for me, my greatest thing is
preach,
like, sis. I'm like,
now preaching today, you came ready for the devotional.
do you hear me?
Yeah.
Like give yourself time. Like give yourself time. And in that time and in your journey of growing, in your journey of experiencing life, you come to find who you are. And it's not by force. And you'll love who you are when you decide like that you're that person.
My God. Are you writing a book?
I'm about to write a book.
You wrote it already. Just copy and paste it. Script. Wow. Becoming.
Yeah, becoming part 2.
Becoming whole. I like.
Yes. Is it a
They're
joke?
raw.
They're raw. We're releasing a book. Becoming whole.
Hey,
allow.
2022. Allow it.
Allow it.
Wow. Step 1, set boundaries. Step 2, allow time. Allow it.
Allow it.
Step 3, be you completely. Step 4, set boundaries again. And step 6,
buy the respect the first boundary.
You guys will buy that book. It will be
pre-sale. It's gonna be sell out during the pre-sale.
New York Times. Actually, I don't want to engage with New York right now. The way they're called.
Wow, bestseller.
Wow.
I'm saying, sis.
Wow, that was good. No,
Like,
guys, seriously, if you guys want that book to come, comment below and
Let
tell
us know.
We will get
Seriously.
to writing. We
We'll
have
write it
nothing
today.
but time.
Honestly, Miss Rona done. We locked up.
We
We
locked
locked in the
up.
house. So let us know.
Yes.
But yeah, those
That
are the
was
main
good.
ones. I think those were really good.
Mhm.
They were solid. And honestly, if y'all take these pieces of advice to heart, change your life.
Change your life, baby. And we're so glad we could come to y'all real live and direct from the raw.
Be raw, honey.
And you know, if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the thumbs up.
Comment
Subscribe. Comment below. Let us know what advice you would give to yourself or what piece of advice you like the most.
Right.
And we can't wait to see y'all next time on The
Raw.
Raw. Later, y'all.
Pimps.
No,
No,
we're in the middle.
no, stop, please,
my
please, no.
Are we shooting? Hey, welcome to the Raw Live. How y'all doing?
It's not live.
I'm definitely gonna cut you
When you
up.
start shooting?
Yo, we're in the middle of a video right now.
Hey, boo boo. You okay? Alright, so. Hey, man, start it out though. Look.
You gonna mess up our focus if you do that.
Oh, no, I still am. Where's the avenue?
We're shooting. We will talk to you in 5 minutes.
And please do not come around here making more noise. Like, we're almost done. Stop, please.
Sorry, guys.
This is why I tell
Oh my
Kuya all the
God.
time, and y'all just witnessed it. There's nobody in my family that respects me.
There's no respect. There's no respect.
Nobody.
I just can never get it. I can never get. I know you lying.
I just want to see what you guys talking about.
No, it's a serious one. Stop, please. Walk away because I can't. I actually cannot genuinely. Go to your room. Go to your room.
Where did you say? I'm not ready.
Oh
No,
my God.
stop. Okay. Sorry, y'all. We're back.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
another piece of advice would be to set ground
No,
rules.
seriously.
Like, earn your respect and don't
It
let
has to
people
be.
not respect you.
Don't let people walk over you. Like, who cares that we're filming, honestly? Okay,